Right, we are recording. Jenny, how you doing today?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm all right. Thanks. It's a bit dark and cold, and autumn set in here. Whereabouts are you right now?
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Nice. Sun
Yeah.
shining?
Nope, it's dark and gray. It's winter. Winter is here.
Okay. Well, let's try and inject a little ray of sunshine into each other's
Yeah.
lives right now. Right? Let's do that.
I actually like it. It's cozy.
Yeah.
It's
Do you know what? I'll make you right.
Yeah.
You got your hoodie on. That's
Yep.
official winter clothing, isn't it? Like
In the bed, sweats, but it's nice because LA. I was in LA for like 20 years, and there's really like hardly any weather there, and it's it's beautiful and sunny, but this place is just like four seasons. It feels, yeah, you get a little down in the winter time, some whatever, but I think it's like necessary.
Well, speaking of things that I guess has influenced lots of people's kind of well-being and stuff over the recent sort of couple of years, like just before we sort of move into the playlist and actually, just want to ask you really how you found lockdown, both personally and creatively.
um I actually it was interesting because I moved to Salt Lake City. My boyfriend is from here. I had been visiting a lot over the past like 4 or 5 years, and so I just decided that it was about a couple of months before lockdown. But when I decided to come here, it was just probably for like 3 months. The plan was like, oh, just go there for a couple of months, chill out, hang out with his family because his mom and dad live here as well, and they have a really nice, just sweet home, was nestled in the mountains or just before the mountains. Um, and it's cozy there, and it always was cozy. So basically, lockdown hit a couple of months after that, and so then I decided to stay. But we were all staying in the family home, and at times it was really frustrating just because there was a lot of us in the house. But I also realized there was a lot of people who were spending that time alone, so being
Yeah.
isolated, double isolated in a way. Um, and we honestly just had like, we had campfires every night. We ate meals. It was actually like a real familial experience for me. And I sort of, my family's not really like that. Like growing up, we would all eat dinner separately. We were all just sort of independent, and they're very much about like, the like community commune together for dinners and do things together. And so that was a nice change of pace for me, I think. There were times, don't get me wrong, that I was going a little crazy just being in a house because I also am used to living alone.
Yeah.
So there was those challenges, but I feel like in retrospect, those were nice challenges to have, Anyways, and creatively, it was really good. I basically wrote a record during that time, or most of it, a good chunk of it. I painted a lot, which was really, really nice. And also it was the first time in years that I actually had like time off.
Yeah.
Proper time off. There was even times where I was like, well, shoot, what should I do? Like, I didn't even know what was happening no one knew what was happening. I thought, hey, maybe my career is over. Like maybe this isn't going to be a thing anymore. Maybe the whole world is going to change, and I don't know. There were so many things, obviously, that were uncertain. And so, yeah, I was like, what do I do? Should I go get my real estate license? Should I? I mean, I was like, I could do that. It's like $500, and you could take a course for 4 weeks to 6 weeks if you cram it in. There was all kinds of things where I was like, I've always wanted to be.
Did you really have like thoughts then, Jenny, that, this situation, because there was definitely points, maybe like 7-8 months in, where I think a lot of us were thinking, oh shit, I thought this was going to be done in like a month, and it's not going away. And did you have, real thoughts that, maybe the whole landscape of the music industry and that could completely reshuffle, and we'll come out of this and it'll be a completely different environment? Was that a legit thought?
It really was. I didn't, you know, shows were getting canceled, you know, mainly like that's like, it's my livelihood, and that's how, you know, the band, and also playing shows. Like we've never really been, that's sort of how we make our money, is by
Yeah.
touring. Record sales are, you know, nice coffee money every once in a while when you get a royalty payment for $5. But touring is that was how we made our money. So that was just getting canceled. There was really no shows. We were all in different places. Stella was in Australia. So as far as like getting together and maybe just playing and doing live streams was off the table.
Yeah.
I'm in Utah. Emily was in the desert, and then Oregon, and T was in LA. So we were totally split up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It was definitely like, we were also in the middle of making a record as well. So
Yeah.
I was making Warpaint and the solo stuff.
Yeah.
And even though I was doing that and it was happening, I felt there was a moment there where I was just like, what are we doing that? What are we doing this for? You know what I mean? What is it like? What's the end game here?
Yeah. It was so strange, Jenny. And it's like, there were so many moments when like I was saying to my children, I was like, just kind of breathe this in a little bit. It's a bit bleak, you know, if you're 15, it must be awful. But just kind of acknowledge what's happening, because like in years to come, you'll look back on this and it will be, fuck yeah, that was that mad year where the world stopped turning. It was like, you know, I was like, this is kind of history right now. So I kind of try and breathe it in to a degree. Do you know what I mean? It was like strange, so strange. And no one had any answers. And that's what kind of made it really, really odd. But
I know we did that. Yes, no one had any answers. You couldn't really believe. I mean, you're just getting so many mixed information about it all out there. And so that mixed with also like fear, you don't, you know, I didn't want to leave the house, really. I didn't want to get COVID. So it was really strange. It felt a bit like apocalyptic.
Absolutely.
Like, whoa.
Right, I'm going to throw a tenuous link in. Right, so I guess one of the constants that's always there is the lovely thing that's music. So should we talk about some records?
Yes, let's do it.
Glorious. I am going to ask you first to please tell me the song, Jenny, that you regard as having the greatest ever intro.
The greatest ever intro. Okay, so I answered these questions. It was the first, because I don't want to think too, I don't know, whenever I'm put on the spot or I'm asked a question, sometimes I get a little heady about it, and you're like, oh wait, what? Especially about what's your favorite this, or what's your da-da-da. It's like, oh, there's so many, and I don't know. So my list is pretty interesting. I found it interesting. But the greatest intro, I've obviously heard this song forever. Sorry, I have to look at my list now. I know it was hard. Crazy. What is that song? Sorry, 1 second. There they are. Crazy on You. Sorry. I've heard this song obviously since I was a little girl, but I was geeking out on the intro because I always thought it was two different songs. When I was little, I was like, oh, what's this cool song? You know what I mean? It's just this musical, like, or instrumental intro or whatever. But then obviously the next would follow. And I never really put it together when I was little. I had always just remembered listening to it. And then I had just geeked out on it like 2 weeks ago, where I was like, that really is just such a weird, amazing, intricate, random for when it goes into it. But I feel like, and also just such a slow build. Yeah. But then when the song actually hits, you're like, oh, what a payoff. Yeah. And it's not like you're not enjoying, but you're like, where's this going? Because it feels like it goes to 1,000 different places as well. And you're just kind of following it to like, all right, where are you going to land? And then the little guitar riff comes in, and then you're like, okay, this is really, really cool. How did you guys come up with this?
So I totally agree, and I love like a lengthy intro where you do get that big payoff, you know.
Yep.
But so I'm going to ask you this when it comes
Okay.
to making music. Does it ever enter in? And I have tried to ask this question correctly for 333 episodes, and I've still never framed it right, Jenny. But I'll try. I want to know, like, it would appear now when I watch my children with their phones and how they get their music. It's very quick, super quick attention spans. And when I hear, if I put on my maybe sort of commercial radio, the pop music that's being made is like bang chorus, like there's not, it's like straight in, just grabs you. I just wonder if any of them little things are ever find their way into your songwriting process, or are you still, I'll write as I want to write, but are you ever aware of like, oh, maybe I could kind of start with the chorus or start with this hook here? Like, what do you get where I'm trying to go with this question, Jenny?
I do. I think I'm going to answer as best as I can, or at least to my understanding of what you're saying. I maybe in the past a little bit more, but no, this is sort of a way that I've always solo stuff. When I start writing a song, I find that I feel like I'm always, I start with a chorus because I'm like writing something, and it always feels like the hookiest thing to me. Like just when you're starting to write something, like, oh, I like that. This is cool. Where's this going to go? And naturally, to get me excited about it, it feels like a hook or a chorus, or with bass or with guitar or even vocals. Like I used to do that a lot. I would kind of just mantra out. I didn't have a whole lot of like lyrics in my songs. It was just a lot of mantras, but that's because I was like, I would start with what felt like a chorus. And so it was really like, well, what do you follow with that? Or most of the songs are like, you know, maybe they do start with the chorus, or they're not totally typical like format. But recently, you mean like, okay, so back to your question. If I am writing something, I definitely, especially alone, I feel like I tend to, okay, it needs to change, and this needs to change right now, or this needs to go to something different, or it needs to go exciting. It's a little quicker. Like instead of if you're there jamming with somebody else or playing with somebody else, like the girls, for instance, we will jam out, and we jam out on stuff, or just sort of play with each other and see what happens next, or who takes the lead, or we just kind of do this dance with each other. And so I feel like with us, our songwriting isn't necessarily the most, we don't really follow like I guess a pop formula, or like, you know, it's a little different just because there's four of us sort of speaking a language with each other, and having an exchange. So it's like we're all kind of taking turns doing things, and sometimes it takes longer to get to the chorus, or what's happening before the chorus. There's like these little, you know, there's these little paths going different places, and then we land at a chorus, or I don't know, but it's easier for me to do what you were talking about alone. I think it's a little more straightforward, where you're like, okay, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, you know what I mean? However that goes, or part A, part B, part C. Okay, do B again. Now go to C. I don't know. There's definitely a formula there that feels a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little more instant. You know what I mean? Like I want, sort of what you were describing. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to articulate.
Honestly, I've not framed that question right for 3 years now, so no pressure.
No, it's right.
All right, well, look, Jenny, I'm going to take you back for track 2, and I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
So when I was little, it was the first song that I remember really liking, or hearing it and really like wanting to dance, or just enjoying it, and remembering it, and probably like singing along to it as well. I think I was like 3 or something, but it's Starship, We Built This City. And I'm just laughing at the list of songs. The list surprised me too, by the way. I was like, whoa, That's an interesting eclectic
But I
mix of
think
songs.
like the way that you approached it, I prefer that. Like, right, these are the first ones that come into my head, and
Yeah.
and I guess, you know, for some of these questions, you can wake up in a different mood tomorrow, and they'll be completely different.
Yeah, or you'll remember something different.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So yeah, you're
Um,
not being judged too heavily on Starship. Don't worry.
nah.
And that's a tune
You
as
know what?
well.
Yeah, no, I love it. I just think it's, you know, it's just a random song. It's a funny song, but I loved that song when I was little. And I can't remember. I feel like I remember being in a bar or something with my dad and the jukebox, and they were like playing pool and drinking. All of his friends were having fun. And I don't know. This was when I was 3 in Reno, Nevada. So you probably could have your kid at the bar, who knows, or it just wasn't, no one cared. But I just remember dancing and enjoying that time with my father and his friends, and just like, I don't know, everybody kind of came alive when that song came on, and so it just felt like a celebration.
Yeah. That was one of the first records I ever bought. Like, and there was a little shop in my town, and they used to sell, I don't know if they do that in the States, but they used to, in the UK, the records that had come out of the jukebox, like they'd sell them off cheap. And so you could buy these records that had the middles missing, where they've been pushed out for the jukebox. And so you could buy what was called like ex jukebox records in the UK really cheap. And I think it was like 50p. And I got that record, and I was so excited. And I don't know if you do it. If you find a new record, just a track, or you hear a track on wherever you get it, and you like it, do you play it over and over and over and over? I'm terrible for that. Do you do that?
I do. I do that with songs too.
Yeah.
I'm just, but yes, when there's a record, I just like, oh yeah, I don't know if it's I'm not sure, but I don't know with the times, or just because of streaming and Spotify and just people wanting to listen to songs, singles, or not albums in their entirety. I don't know. I just haven't felt that feeling in a long time. Like, I haven't done that in a while. It's definitely just like with older records, for sure. It's been a minute since, probably because I don't listen to them like that anymore. I used to listen to CDs, or, you know, I don't have the largest vinyl collection. So I'll say CDs and put it in your car and drive and listen to the whole thing. And now I'll do that on Spotify if I'm curious, if there's, you know, an album out, but I don't. Yeah, it's hard to even think of like albums these days that I listened to in their entirety and what I'd want to
How do you approach
put
it though,
on.
as an artist? Like, do you still like spend loads of time on track listing? And, you know, do you want the listeners of your music and Warpaint's music to listen to the album as a piece of art, as a body of work, rather than cherry picking a few tracks off of iTunes? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes, definitely. 'Cause when we're making albums, it's like, okay, when we're picking songs for the albums, or even when I would hope to, you know what I mean, every song I make, I like. So I would hope, you know what I mean, that it would all, it's like, I don't always just make the songs are obviously written over time and not necessarily thought of in the moment. Oh, this is going to go well with that song I just wrote. Or you know what I mean? It's just like what comes out. And sometimes it's like, oh, I wonder how all these songs are going to fit together. And they usually work great. I mean, it works, but that's not how I write, I guess. And same with the girls, but we're definitely, when we do go in to make an album, it's to make an album and for it to be an experience to listen to as a whole. And oftentimes they, you know, I keep losing my train of thought. I'm sorry. They complement each other. So it's nice to have, you know, to listen to them together. But also recently I've been just releasing 7 inches.
Yeah.
So I just released 1 and then released 2 more before Christmas. And then my actual LP is going to be out in April with the 6 songs I released and then 4 more. So this has been interesting because I've been writing as I go. It wasn't just like go in the studio for a month and record all these songs. I've been writing and recording over the last year. And each 7-inch was due kind of at a separate time. So I was actually sort of writing songs to be like, oh, this would be a nice pair with the other song. Yeah.
So it was never the initial plan that I'm going to write an album. It was like, I'm going to write this single, and then I'm going to write this single, and then ultimately the album is going to come. Or, you know, what is there like? I'm trying to get this right as well. So the fact that you'd released the 7-inch singles, was that just, you know, going to be a standalone release, and then it was like, oh no, I'm going to do another one, and okay, this is now going to form part of an album?
It was the long-term goal was an LP, but
right.
the 7 inches were going to be before, and
Yeah.
I had the dates to turn them in were sort of different and scattered, so I had time to like turn in one song and then turn in another song that would go with that, and then, you know, kind of did it like that, and then there was a final date to turn in everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So then I sort of wrote the rest for the rest of the album. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to keep you in the formative years, and for track 3, the song that reminds you of your time at school, please, Jenny.
Today by Smashing Pumpkins.
That's a great record.
Yeah, Siamese Dream, I know, and it still stands, and I listen to it, and it feels so much like, I can't remember when that song came in. I think it came out when I was in 6th grade, maybe.
I'm going to say 92.
Oh, 92. Okay, so I was, it was like 5th grade, 6th grade for me. And that's also like the time where I was listening to the radio a lot. That's how I listened to music. My parents didn't really we had like single tapes. The single tapes, tape singles. And my mom was always too cheap to buy the full record. So she was, or the full tape, you know, so she was like, oh, you know, you can buy the singles. You can always buy, you know, just buy singles. So I listened to the radio and always listened to the singles. And there'd be like a side B or whatever. But that song, I think I'm answering another question. That song Today was, it came out 5th grade or 6th grade. So my point is that I was like interested in music enough to want to be able to go to the store and actually buy things. And I had money and was able to do that. I got allowance or whatever. And so, Siamese Dream, that album, and that song Today, mainly just because I didn't get the whole albums until like maybe later on when I was in high school. Just always, it reminds me of being in elementary school. It reminds me of being middle school. It reminds me of being in high school. It just has come, the whole album has traveled with me throughout my life in a really nice way where it just feels nostalgic, but it also feels really present as well. That makes sense.
Total sense. And I think the video's like super iconic as well. For me, that was like, being the age I am, I was probably about 18 when that came out. And so I was getting exposed to Pumpkins, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Pavement, Dinosaur Jr. All of these amazing bands were all just coming over to the UK. And it was just when kind of our friends and that were starting to be able to afford to have MTV at home.
Yeah.
And I just remember that Ice Cream band of them just like driving.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, I saw them. I was so lucky. I saw Pumpkins when they toured Gish, and oh my god, it's still one of the greatest gigs I've ever seen. Like, was the drummer's name Jimmy Chamberlain, wasn't it?
Jimmy, yeah.
Fuck, that guy on drums was off the scale.
I know. Yeah, they're really, really, really amazing. I feel like even you were just saying. Just MTV back in the day. I miss that. That's just nostalgic. Just the music television and proper music television. It's so weird we don't really have that anymore. Do we?
It's so weird. Like,
well, I don't know about it.
No, not in the UK. Like MTV in the UK is just kind of like Kardashians and TV.
It's reality,
like TV reality stuff. Yeah, it's like there's no. You know, we had MTV2 for a while in the UK. That's gone now. There's no like. Yeah, if you're a bit weird and wonderful and like, you know, there's nothing for you. There's nothing to kind of give you that little hug that, you know, so many generations before them had. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's sad. There's like YouTube, I guess, and you can watch videos. You can watch everyone's videos, but I don't know. It just feels, MTV was such a part of my childhood as well. And watching the videos was also just so exciting because you got to hear the song that you wanted to hear as well.
Yeah.
You can't always hear, if you didn't have it at home, which I didn't have like a large music selection when I was little, it was the only way to hear those songs was either on the radio or MTV.
And
So
that attaches a value to it, I think.
yeah, definitely.
And I think like it sounds ridiculous because, you know, if you had a VHS or a DVD of them songs and them videos, you could watch it a million times. But if you just happen to have MTV on and a random video comes on, it's all the better. And it's the same when you have the radio on in the car, right?
Yeah.
I could listen to, you know, Today by the Smashing Pumpkins a million times. If I just happen to have the radio on and it comes on, it's all the better. It's so much better. It's like, yes, it's on the radio.
Yes. Yeah.
That sounds so lame, but I know what I'm trying to go with.
No, it doesn't. Yes, it's on the radio. You get stoked. Yeah, I miss that feeling.
So, Jenny, tell me about school. Was it something you enjoyed?
Not really. No. I was no, I liked the socializing part. I liked being with friends, and yeah, I wasn't like the most studious kid. I had like, it was hard for me to focus and I just wanted to be talking and I was really hyper. And so yeah, the learning aspect of school was a little challenging for me.
You're creative.
But I did, you know, what was funny is I didn't really exercise that when I was younger. My mom isn't very like, she wasn't very creative. We didn't grow up in like, it wasn't a very creative household. That sounds kind of rude, but it wasn't. And it's funny, my sister and I are both really creative. And I think we needed outlets like that. And it was hard for me to like figure out what I wanted to do. I really had like, I'm ADHD, I'm sure I even got diagnosed with it, but my mom was just like, whatever, she's a kid, you know, let her figure it out. And there were different, I would switch like, you know, activities, or I'd do softball, I do piano, I do dance, I do karate. There was like all these things that I would just try for a little bit and I'd get bored and then I'd do something different. So I was always sort of looking for what's that thing that I can jive with. And then music came, but that didn't really happen until, I messed around with the piano when I was younger, but nothing serious. And my mom didn't have one at home. So it was whenever I could get my hands on one that I would play. But again, nothing serious, just it felt fun to do and it felt right and natural. But then I started playing bass when I was 19. So it kind of took me a minute to figure out what my creative outlet was, you know, or that I even had one. I didn't even know what that energy really was. I had a lot of it, but I was just like, where do I put it? Didn't know.
Did you have any idea what you wanted to be when you was at school?
I wanted to be a cosmetologist. I said that since I was 5, or somebody asked me when I was 5 what I wanted to be, and I said cosmetologist, which is it's like all encompassing: hair, nails, facials. And I said I wanted to do that for a while, and then I was in high school and I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a psychologist. And there's like a tiny little moment where I wanted to be an architect. So, and then an astronaut.
You got to dream big, Jenny. You got to dream big, mate. I wanted to be a stuntman.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I'm laughing because I'm like, whoa, those are big. Like, they just seem so random to me now. But then I just decided I wanted to move to LA. My sister had been living in LA a couple of years before me, and she was a dancer. And then she got into acting and doing some stuff. So she lived there and I was visiting her for she moved when I was a freshman. No, she was a freshman. I was a freshman. She was a senior. She moved when I was a sophomore. So I had sophomore, junior, and senior year without her in Reno, and she was in LA. And so I was visiting her, and I just wanted to take time off of school. I didn't like school. By the time I had gotten to high school, I was never going to class. I was ditching all the time. I just didn't want to be there. It was depressing to me. The environment was depressing. The town, I felt like the town was depressing. I just wanted out. And every time I went to LA, it just seemed so glamorous and just like opportunity and options and culture, and it just felt way more inspiring. So sorry for long-winded answer. I decided to just go to LA and take time off of school and figure it out. I was like, I just want to go pay bills, get a job, live some life for a minute. I don't want to go to college for 4 years. I don't know what I want to do. Just going and getting your gen eds for 2 years seemed like torture. I was just like, I don't care about school. So yeah, moved to LA and just figured it out, started like sewing and playing music and just being really creative. Going on auditions. I did that for a while. I didn't want to be an actor, but I'd just go on like commercial and print. So I had like a commercial and like model agency. And I did that for some years. And that was nice because if you booked a gig, then you had a decent amount of money to like do things that you wanted, which was cool.
Was you confident, Jenny?
Were I confident? Growing up?
Yeah.
No.
Moving to LA and doing stuff like that. I mean, that you know, to me, that I would imagine that takes an element of confidence.
My sister was there, so I think had she not been there, I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
I was very if she would have went somewhere else, I probably would have followed her there. When I was growing up, she was definitely like my role model and like a good example of, you know, someone who knew what she wanted and went after it. So I sort of looked up to her for that because I just felt a little bit lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like she was pretty confident in just knowing, you know, I think she just had a little bit more, I don't want to say drive, but just more direction.
What about drive? Are you driven?
I feel like I am, yes. I'm driven. Ludo. Sorry, my dog's having a bad dream. Mush mush. I feel like I have a drive to create and do things that are expressive. I feel like in my creative outlets, that's very easy for me to kind of stream of consciousness express how I'm feeling, but through art or through painting or just creating or doing anything creative. It's a good outlet for me. It feels like, oh, this needed to come out in some way, you know, some sort of form. Not sure what it is. It's not that I'm not good talking about things, but there's just like, it's just the energy that I need to let out. And I have drive for that, because if I don't do that, then I get depressed. You know, I start to feel like I'm lacking purpose.
Yeah.
But I don't, you know, I wish I was better at like business and having a drive for money.
Yeah.
And that sounds, I don't want to be, you know, I'm not trying to be Elon Musk or anything, obviously, but I definitely have like an entrepreneur mind, and I wish I was a little bit more driven or had even the urge or more drive to even just learn about being better at that stuff. But that stuff comes a little bit hard for me, and I wish it didn't, because I know I have good ideas, and it's just about executing them. And also, yeah, even just being better with your money and doing certain things like that, just so that you can ensure, you know, financial security for yourself, invest, do certain things. Yeah, that drive is definitely lackluster.
But
and also
Go on. Sorry, what was you saying, Jenny?
Oh, I was just going to say that even being creative, it's not like I'm not really making the art to sell, you know.
Yeah.
I would love to, and I do sometimes, which is really great. And same with music, but like, we don't really approach music. We can't go in a room and write a song and just be like, oh, let's make a hit, you know, let's make a hit that's going to make us a bunch of money, because we only know how to make the music that we all four like.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way that we can't write a song that we're not feeling. If we were feeling a song and that happened to be a total hit, that's great. But I can't go into the creation process with that in mind, because it doesn't feel, doesn't feel creative.
To go in there and do what you want to do, and also knowing that, you know, there's an audience that love that. Then I heard Alan McGee once say, he was speaking about Creation Records, and he spoke about Primal Scream, and he said the thing with Primal Scream is they're never going to be the biggest band on the label or the biggest band in the UK, but their following loves what they do, and they will sell the same amount of every record they ever make. Because I think there's so much to be said for just kind of knowing what you do and what you enjoy doing, and you can't fake that, and listeners will see through that. And I think if you do what you do best, and it's it's a process that's really fun and rewarding as an artist, and people are into it, I think that's the winning formula right there.
Yeah, totally. And that's the only formula that I guess I know, and that they know, that we know, Warpaint together. And I don't know. I feel like we're honoring ourselves and
Definitely.
And our authenticity, and that feels really good. It's not just like a move, oh no, that's cheesy. It's like you just make what you like, in hopes that other people will too, or in hopes that everybody who will like it hears it.
Yeah. Track 4, Jenny. The first song you remember buying from a record store.
Okay, so we're back to the tape singles. And this is in 5th grade, and there were 2 that came to mind.
I just want to talk about cassette singles for a minute, right?
Okay.
So what was really cool about them was, right, as an especially for an artist as well, is you kind of definitely listen to the B-side. Because on that cassette single, you just get the A-side and the B-side, then you turn it over and you get the A-side and the B-side again.
Yeah.
And so there's so many cassette singles I had where I knew the B-side that if I would have bought that on vinyl, I probably never would have turned it over. So I do think the cassette singles definitely kind of introduce people to B-sides a bit more.
And like the 7-inch too. But yes, I feel like also, did you have the tape player? It would just automatically go to the B-side. So you could just listen to the A and the B and the A and the B and the A and the B, which
I'll tell you what, right? You're balling over there, I tell you, because I could not afford a Walkman that had auto reverse. That was like, you was doing all right if you had the auto reverse Walkman. That was like the posh kids around my way had that. It was like, wow, auto reverse.
it was in the car.
Yeah,
I think it was in the car, in my mom's car. But that's so funny. I can't even remember what was on these B-sides. You'd think I would, because they were the first tapes, but I don't. Maybe I wasn't that into them. Who knows? But okay, the first 2 tapes, I think I went to the store and bought them both. And it was it was Red Hot Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge, and Celine Dion, If You Ask Me To. Those were the first tapes I was in 5th grade. Those were the first tapes I went to the record store and bought, and I actually bought 2 of each, because it was for a birthday party, it was a birthday present for one of my friends, and I bought 2 of each because I wanted one. I wanted them both, and so I just bought what I wanted for the person, for the person's whose birthday it was. But I remember those were the 2 tapes I first bought. I couldn't believe I remembered that, and that's why you asked me these questions, and I was like, whoa. The first thing that came to mind were I don't know, just the interesting, eclectic, for sure.
Just a bit. I mean, you couldn't get 2 further ends of the kind of musical spectrum, really, could you?
No, I know. I was listening to a couple of different radio stations back then, clearly.
Well, tell me about record stores and your relationship with them, both from, growing up and buying, cassette singles and CDs and things like that. And then also tell me a little bit about your relationship with them now as an independent artist, and has so many, certainly in the UK, independent record stores, they champion, independent artists so much. I just want to know a little bit about your relationship with the record stores.
You know what? It's not, I'm always supportive. I mean, I love record shops. I think they're great. But again, like since I haven't really gone to them much since CDs sort of phased out, because I was going to them a lot more because that's what I had. I had a car with a CD player. We didn't have Spotify. Unfortunately, streaming has definitely taken away the joy of going into the record store and buying the music that way, you know, even iTunes, even just putting things on your iPod.
Sure.
Years ago. But the record shops that I had in Reno, you know, were just the ones I had access, not the ones I had access to, but just the ones that were close or whatever, were like Tower Records, were the big boys. And there was a couple of record shops in Reno. There was one called Recycled Records, I believe is still there. You know, I would say I probably went to record shops more when I was younger, and it's been a minute. There's Amoeba in LA, which I love. A lot of, like you said, a lot of independent record shops closed for a while. A lot of them did. And then there was a little bit of a resurgence. It happened in LA. I was like, oh, this is a cool little record shop. And now there's quite a bit. So I think vinyl came back. People were wanting that more. Obviously, there's more record shops popping up. Like just a couple of years prior, they were closing. So, anyways, sorry, to answer your question. I love them, and I wish that there were more of them. And I wish that I had the drive to go and hang out at record shops and buy vinyl and do it. That's something I need to get better at.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not the best at it.
It is so easy to listen to Spotify, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you know, I don't want to, you know, this podcast is not about, you know, oh, it's all better when it was back in the day with vinyl and that. Yeah. There's something lovely about that journey, and you know, and I love vinyl, but I also love the simplicity that within seconds the whole world's music is just there in front of me. I love that.
The access, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to take you clubbing, Jenny, and I want to know for track 5 the song that soundtracked your year's clubbing.
Now, this one was a tricky one because there's probably many songs that have soundtracked the clubbing or the pre-clubbing, or I wasn't really a clubber. I did go out and dance at like bars or dive bars, or there were jukebox, or there would be a DJ, but it was like, when you envision clubbing, it's definitely, it doesn't feel like, you know, it's not like a ravey club or like a crazy dance club. But anyways, the song that I would always be cutting a rug to is Kool and the Gang, Get Down on It.
Oh, tune.
And I love it so much. I've always loved that song for sure. But that was another interesting, like, that's the song that came to my head, like right away. Maybe it was like, I even wanted to hear it at that moment where I just thought about like dancing and being out. And I was just like, oh, that song for sure. And I've spent lots of times in my life grooving to that out and about.
You like a dance, Jenny?
I do. I love to. And I don't do enough of that either. I'm starting to like just dance in my apartment and, you know, just get it out just because it's been a minute. Obviously, we haven't. Yeah. And there's nowhere to go. But speaking of, I'm going to go to Caribou tonight because they're playing and they're dancey. They're playing here in Salt Lake. Do you know Caribou?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You never know. So I'm excited about that. But yes, I do. I love to dance.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I'm going to take you home for this one. And a favorite song from an artist from your home county, please. Okay.
This was also a hard one because there weren't many.
Okay. Who was in the mix? Who is from your home county?
No one.
Really? Well, that narrows it down.
That sounds so rude, but I was like, I didn't know. I even Googled. I was just like, who is from there? What band, you know, is? And there was a 7 Seconds. It's like a punk band,
right? From
like the 90s, maybe the early 90s. I don't know if they were late 80s, but the lead singer, the guy who probably started the band is from Reno, but I was never really into them. So, not that they were bad. It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
And then there's a local band called Fall Silent, and they did a cover of Heartbreaker by Heart. So you would really think that I was like the biggest Heart fan, which I think they're amazing, but it's just funny that 2 Heart songs on this very short list. yeah, I was like, oh, I love that song. That song was great. But it felt, I didn't, not to take it away from them, but just there weren't very many options. But I
Yeah.
did actually really love that song. And they're a cool band. They're a hardcore band with like a really screamy
Yeah.
frontman. Screamo frontman. It's an
Screamo.
emotional scream. Yeah. There's melody in his scream.
But well, this is when I'll take you from the clubs and I'll put you behind the DJ booth, because you can be influencer and tastemaker DJ now for the last track, Jenny. And I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear, please.
Self-Control by Laura Branigan.
Oh, what a tune.
Yeah. Yes. And that is, my mom and dad only had a few records in the house, like vinyl, and they would go away. So there was like 3 records that I remember. It was Boz Scaggs. Don't know, I can't remember which one, but 3 artists, Boz Scaggs, and there was Barbra Streisand, Barry Gibb, Guilty, and Laura Branigan. I don't know what that was. It called Self-Control? I'm not sure.
The album was called Self-Control, I think.
Yeah, and so I would listen to those albums on repeat when they were gone at work. There wasn't anything else to listen to, and the Laura Branigan I just loved it. I don't even know how many people don't know who she is. I feel like I was like, Laura Branigan. I remember even listening to it growing up. People were like, I have no idea who you're talking about. Like, they just didn't. I'm not really even sure.
She done Gloria as well, didn't she?
Gloria, that was the main one. Yeah, but like that song, just even songs on that album were actually really good, and just nobody really knew who she was. But yeah, that was in Flashdance. So,
and I think
that was a big hit.
I think it might have been in Ghostbusters as well.
Gloria?
No,
Self-Control.
Yeah,
maybe. Okay.
Like, definitely, because that would have been my introduction to it. Yeah, Gloria was definitely Flashdance, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's really weird. Like when you kind of get all the the 80s retrospective nights in the UK, you don't generally hear that. And I don't know why, because both of them are huge 80s anthems.
Mm-hmm.
But it just doesn't ever seem to kind of pop up on the 80s nights in the UK. I've no idea why. And I was there's some artists that just don't kind of have the same status in the UK. I was literally talking to my wife the other day, and I was like, yeah, like with Pat Benatar. And she's like, who? And I went, Pat Benatar. And she went, who's Pat Benatar? I was like, Love Is a Battlefield. No, I never heard that. And I was like, shush, you've definitely heard that. She was like, no, I haven't. And I put it on. She's like, no, I've never heard that. And I thought, how can you not have ever heard Love Is a Battlefield? It's like, do you know what I'm saying? There's some songs that are just ingrained in the very fabric of music. And it's like, yeah, and I'd have Laura Branigan in there, but not in the UK. It just doesn't seem to have that same kind of clout.
It doesn't here really either.
Oh, really?
No, it's kind of just like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't, I never hear it really on the radio. Maybe I've heard it on the radio like a few times in my life. Yeah. But
well, that's the purpose of this question.
Yeah.
So now more people are going to hear about it because of you, Jenny. So what we do is we put together a Spotify playlist to accompany the pod with all your choices. And obviously we put some of your music on there, put some Warpaint on there as well. So people can go and get stuck into all of the music that we've spoken about today.
Amazing.
So just as we start to wrap this up, the end of 2021 hopefully is going to continue to be a more connected, healthier, happier, positive place than what the end of 2020 was.
Yep.
With that in mind, Jenny, what are you looking forward to from the rest of this year, and what's going to be happening professionally?
Looking forward to for this year. Okay, so right now I'm in the middle, or I'm last stages of new records. So that's a new Warpaint record and a new Jenny Lee record. Literally like mastering mine tomorrow, and then I think mastering Warpaint's today, or we've been mastering it, but just we're making little tweaks. So looking forward to that coming to a finish, which is going to be just a really nice relief because we've been working on it for a while. And also doing them both at the same time is feels a
Yeah.
little like multitasking, stressy, not stressy, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot. So I'm looking forward for the rest of this year. It's going to be winter, and I'm excited to go snowboarding and just get cozy and enjoy it and paint and, try and take some trips for leisure, because next year both records will be released, but there's touring on the table, which is great. We're coming to Europe in May. So I'm excited about that because it's been a minute, and that's about a 5-week tour or 4 or 5 week tour. And then the summer touring's more anyway. So next year is going to be touring, which is awesome. So I'm going to do my very best to soak in the chill, cozy, in bed by 5:30, watching the stories under the covers. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And if people want to keep up to speed with not just Warpaint, but yourself, where's the best place to find out everything that you're up to?
My website, jennyleelindberg.com that's always a little hub for information as well. Instagram, I post a lot of things about whatever is happening currently or what's to come, and that's Jenny Library. Those are the two places. I feel like Facebook too, but I mean, those are the two. Excellent.
Well, if it's all right with you, Jenny, when this comes out, I'll tag you in it on Instagram, so people that haven't yet discovered the amazing thing that is Jenny Lee's music can go and do that now.
Awesome.
Wicked. Jenny, it's been absolutely delightful talking records with you.
I know,
thanks loads,
you too. Mate. Yeah. Have a good one.
Cheers, Jenny.
Bye.
Let me just press